morning, Chief. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Accommodation Facilities Steering Committee meeting. The first item of business, I'd ask if there's any declaration of conflict of interest. Seeing none, please note. Items of new business that may be added to the agenda. I would like to add one myself and get a status update for the expanded parking facilities that are in the works for our headquarters here in Niagara Falls. So we'll add that one. This morning's facilities meeting is more or less a special meeting, and it gives us an opportunity to review just the one report before us, and that report is the status update of the police headquarters District 1 in St. Catharines, which will be located on Welland Avenue, east of Geneva Street. And the report has been prepared by the region, and the writer of that report is Nicole Menard, and she has recently been appointed by the region as the Senior Project Manager for Facilities to implement the construction and implementation of this facility. So we are pleased with the report that we got, and I'm most pleased that she is present with us this morning, and I will call her up to the podium. Welcome very much, Nicole.
Well, I just want to say good morning to everybody. I'm Nicole Menard. I've been with the region for just over 3 years. I've had extensive experience in project management. I worked 7 years in Toronto, but I do live in Niagara, so the drive was a little bit on the long side, so I came back home. Due to just some of the projects that we're running right now, I know that Mislav Karen has been handed over to our long-term care project, which is taking a lot of his time. So seeing that we're both senior project managers, it was a decision by management to put me in charge of running the new District 1 to kind of make sure that the workloads are evenly distributed. So as of February 3rd, 2020, I officially took over this project, and I've gotten to, Mislav and I had about a crossover about 2 weeks. So got to know the contractor, Merit, got to know the steering committee, slowly got to meet. So this is the first time meeting the board, so check on the list of the last little bit to kind of meet in relation to this project. So anyways, I will go into the project status reports, which you have either in front of you or you can see up on the screen. So you have to bear with me. Hopefully I'll get, there we go. So moving forward, there we go. So obviously the top portion of the report you've seen before, just indicating the construction budget or the construction award amount to Merit contractors. Merit mobilized on April the 1st. Structural steel has been completed. The second floor concrete slabs have been completed, and allowing mobilization of the roofing contractor. Over the next month is to complete the milestone of having the facility closed in. So it's almost what we would consider watertight. I mean, obviously it's not completely watertight, but that allow us to start the interiors full force. The project is currently 8 weeks behind schedule due to delays with fabrication and structural steel. We have worked that into the schedule, so further down in the report you'll see that we are, just say for argument's sake, the first week of October 2020 is our substantial completion date. That has not changed since the announcement back in November that we were behind schedule. So that, I know Merit, the project team is making sure that we don't see any more delays, and we're focusing on mitigating any issues. To a certain extent, our winter this year actually has been kind of worked for us. It's been a little messy, but the warmer temperatures have allowed us to do a lot more winter works than we typically would have seen in some of our colder winters. So we'll go through some of the key accomplishments that we've had since April. So there's a lot that has happened since April. So foundations, structural steel, those were a lot of site works in the relation of grading. The framing of the second floor electrical room, the new gas line to the building, I know that was a big milestone for Merit to receive, so that has been, and we're working on the enclosure right now to get the construction meter in place. Roofing has commenced as of the beginning of March. We've had the crane up, so they're actually about phase 2 of the roofing component. We've had some days where they've been off due to the rain the last week, but things are moving along well. The mechanical and electrical rough-ins continue as per schedule. Actually, electrical is actually ahead of schedule right now. Due to the fact that some of the roofing has started already, they felt quite confident to bring in panels. A lot of the conduit is being run, so we were happy to hear that at our meeting this week, that electrical is moving along fantastic. Construction meetings are being held bi-weekly on site. That consists of myself, consists of the mechanical and electrical supervisors. It consists of Merit with the site super, and also the prime consultant, which is Stantec Architects. Additional meetings are also being, so what ends up happening is sometimes we can't tackle everything. So if we feel we need an extra coordination meeting in relation to the masonry or curtain wall system, we hold those extra meetings. We make sure that we're all in attendance. I find that sometimes emails and phone calls don't happen quick enough. So let's get us all down at the trailer, then we can walk the site. We can kind of talk quite openly to make sure that we don't have any, again, schedule has been very important, so we want to tackle things head on. One of the things that since I have taken over the project, I have established a stakeholder group with the NRPS team. James Berg was great in helping me out with getting a list of names, so we have IT, anything from like waste management to the move to the furniture, all the other things that the contractor doesn't necessarily worry about but is still part of the project. So our first meeting is taking place on March 27th, so we can have open discussions. Obviously, our facilities team from the region will be present to discuss their role when we say the building's finished and we hand it over to them. So there's surprisingly a lot of coordination that needs to be done. So that was one of the things I wanted to get started, and we will be meeting on a monthly basis. Just want to go all the way down. Okay, so as of right now, just so the numbers you see in front of you, the original contract price was $14,833,000. The approved changes to date are actually running into credits. We did go forward for some cost savings at the beginning, which you may be aware of. So as of right now, when we'll see a little bit further down where I report on it, we do have a 3% project contingency for the project. As you can see, we're running in a credit, so we're actually running kind of in a negative. So we are strong within our 3%. We haven't actually touched it because we're running within a credit right now. So that is tracking well, considering we're out of the ground. We have foundations, structural steel is in, roofing is commenced, so some of the little hiccup areas. We'll probably run into some coordination and items as we get into the interiors, but as a PM, I can safely say we are tracking well within our contingency range, which is great. And the forecasted budget as of February 29th, and the percentage of work to date is approximately 32% of the project contract amount. Oops, sorry, going too quick here. So again, schedule. Kind of touched on it earlier. We did have a substantial completion date of August 28th, which has been adjusted to October the 5th. due to some of the structural components we talked to, but we are over that hurdle. We are still tracking, and we've been tracking that since November. And we are looking for the closed-in milestone of March 2020. And again, the region and the consultant team remained, committed to making sure that that schedule stays. Oops. And then over the next month, so moving forward, I'm sorry, I'm having a little bit of jumping around here. There we go. Over the next month, the contract will be focusing on the closed-in milestone, commencement of the ground floor, concrete floor slabs. We're going to be doing that in 5 separate pours, but we're still working on the schedule for that. So one of the things that we're not so much worried about is the deep freezes. Yes, we're going to have a few wonky, probably wet days. I'm sure Mother Nature will give us that one wonderful snowstorm by the end of March, like it always does. But the big thing was the roofing. That is key. Once we get that roof, Lynn is finished. So they are projected to finish their works, hopefully weather permitting, by the tail end of next week. We should be in good place. There'll be little ties with parapets and so forth, but again, and the project team will make sure, and we'll be providing. So moving forward, one of the things that I did mention was that we will be providing the board a monthly PSR moving forward, because the project is moving so quickly. I know that there was discussion at the beginning of the project that, if you're reporting, just foundations are in, and foundations are in, and some great. But now that we are moving so quickly and things are changing, I think it's only fair to share this information, whether you call on me to come in and do a presentation, and that's your choice, but we wanted to make sure that we shared it on a monthly basis, just because a couple of months can have, so you can see quite a vast difference in what's going on site. So we'll move into the fun part of the presentation. So as pictures. So I don't know how many you drive by the site, so I kind of wanted to give some older ones. So this is tracking back to January, just so you can kind of see progression, because probably your last report, you might have just seen a hole in the ground, maybe with some concrete sticking out. So we have some structural steel going on here. Down on the lower floor where you see the yellow there, that's some of the structural steel studs with the exterior dense deck. We also, Merit is using a new fall protection system that I wasn't familiar with, but that's the orange ropes that you see around there on the second floor. That is part of our requirement for health and safety. It's part of there. And let's see if I can get this one to move up ever so without jumping. So here we are, there we go, on our west side elevation. The gentleman up there, he's on our higher roof above where we have a lot of different varying roof areas on the second floor. So this is the last part of the steel deck that needed to be put in place and to allow for the roofing to happen within, I think, well, it was another couple of weeks before that took place. So here we are, slowly getting closed in. As you can see, we didn't have our gas connection at that time, so we have our propane tanks that they've been using to temper the ground floor. So as they were doing the second floor pours, we were actually heating from underneath. So they made it airtight to a certain degree, and warmer days allowed for those concrete pours to take place, kind of during some of the colder weather. I mean, we were always above freezing, but these are some of the mitigations that Merit put in place, so this is the start of our aluminum curtain wall system. So I saw that probably the mid-February. So that's the frames that you see now. The glass will slowly follow suit as the frames go in. Actually, at our last meeting, we had a shipment of glass that had come in. That'll work towards our close-in and watertight milestone. So I was happy to see that. That's always a positive. And this is me across the street. Normally, we don't get a lot of photos, so I wanted to hop across the street to kind of give you, so I'm looking at the north elevation, but facing south. So this will be along Welland, where the main entry, which I'll go to the next photo, kind of gives a better, the public main entry. Oh, there's our gas line, because that was a big to do to get that. Sorry, maybe I missed the other one. There it is, right there. So there's the canopy, that kind of where you see the white in behind there, that's where our main entry vestibule doors will be facing, and then you can see the retaining wall that has been put in place between the neighboring properties along the west elevation there. And again, there's our Levenville gas line. So where the gentleman's foot is, you'll see the concrete pad, that's where we'll actually have it turned up, and there's an enclosure with gates that will be installed there. We're working on that one, framing it as we speak. And the last little bit was just our first day of all the roofing materials. That was the first week of March. I know the reports from February, but I wanted to kind of show what's kind of happening. So it was very happy on a somewhat rainy day to see that we were still getting our materials lifted up for the next day of good weather. So that was the crane lifting all our roofing materials up on the roofs. So anyways, that kind of concludes the update. Obviously, does anyone have any questions for me?
Well, thank you very much, Nicole. The very comprehensive report and thorough. This being, I think, the first complete report that we've received from the region, and most pleased to have your presence here just to go over it and to meet you. Just one question before I open it up to the board is, you'd indicated that, can we anticipate a monthly report such as we've just viewed?
Yes.
Excellent.
So I've spoken to Deb, and prior to the agenda going out the Monday, so Shelley Lowe has actually put it in my calendar as a polite reminder to make sure I get that in there. But yes, you will be receiving, like I said, I think it's only fair to all our stakeholders and steering committees and committees that they kind of, because we are moving quickly now, and we're approaching warmer weather, so we are going to be pushing, and a lot's going to happen, and I think it's only fair to report and share this. You know, it's, right now we are working with a very competent contractor. Stantec and I are working closely together. We've got a good team, so it's nice to kind of share that information.
Thank you very much. I'll open it up. Any questions from our board members through to Nicole? Yes.
Sort of week and a half. Once that is done, will the curtain walls be completed sort of the same time? Like, are we going to come together in parallel, that you get a sort of a weather seal at that point?
I'm going to say there's going to be overlap, but it won't be a 100% parallel, because we are still putting the frames, and I know we are talking about with the continuation of the building envelope. So the gentleman that actually Merritt has brought on board, who is our roofing inspector, is also our building envelope inspector. Typically, your roof is actually one of your biggest building envelope components, actually. But everybody thinks about it, it's walls or windows. But your roof, it starts with your roof, and then it eventually envelopes and returns down the sides. So I have asked Merritt to engage and maintain Andrew to see this whole system through. So where the roof will end and the curtain wall and building envelope commence, Andrew will be overseeing that to make sure that all vapor barriers and air barriers are tied in properly to the curtain wall system. We've had several coordination meetings already to address that. So if there's something that the roofer has to leave, like a certain level of a flap with the backer paper still on, so when the curtain wall says, because like I said, we do have some that are tying in already, but we won't have all of it done by the time the roof is done. But we have put steps in place that those connections can be made very, very easily. And he will be overseeing all of those processes as well.
So then would it be fair to propose here, but if the roof and the wall structure sort of comes together now more towards the end of March, would we, when I say we, would the contractor be in the position to start internal
Yes.
Work, let's say the first week of April?
Correct. Right now, I mean, March 31st is our, according to Merritt's last monthly schedule, is our close-in date. So we are tracking for the end of March.
So once he has that,
Correct.
then they can start on any type of interior walls
right.
that cannot sustain any water.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Thank you. Any additional questions from board members? Yes. Member.
Thank you, Chair.
D'Angelo?
I just want to thank Nicole for the presentation. Appreciate that. It's very comprehensive. But I do want to give thanks to our chair, who's been giving us, are they monthly updates? but you've been providing that for us along the way. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but he's been taking pictures and giving us
Yes,
a
he's
bit of a
shared his
synopsis.
reports too, which actually have stolen a few of his photos too, because he kind of fills in bridges.
So no, I appreciate that. I just want to make sure you got recognition for it. Thank you. I appreciate that. The only question I have, it's pretty self-explanatory here, but at certain there should be certain opportunities where the board has an opportunity to tour the facility.
Absolutely.
So I don't know if anything's being looked at for some scheduling purposes. Usually when it's large amounts, like
Right.
say the enclosure is done, you'd give the board an opportunity to come there and visit, to take a look
No,
for ourselves. I think
that-
it's very good. We did it with this building.
Okay.
I've done it with the hospital that was built, and I also did it with Niagara Regional Housing when their projects are being built. It gives us a better understanding from a work perspective,
Yep.
especially if there's a problem that's coming up or some of the issues that face the contractor and moving forward. So, Mr. Chair, if that could be incorporated somehow and possibly set some dates aside of a certain time.
That's not a problem. I would recommend that once we have the ground floor slab poured, at least we have, even footing, because we will actually be watertight before all of that is done. So as soon as that is done, maybe we will have our first walkthrough. Yep.
Thank you very much, and I believe Chair Ganzel has a follow-up question.
That and a comment for you, Chair. If I'm not mistaken, usually Fridays, based on
Yes.
how contractors
Yep.
are scheduled, they're more on a 10-hour work shift than an 8.
Yep.
Friday afternoons are probably, when I've been there, the time when a
Yep.
tour would probably be less disruptive of the site. So perhaps between our chair of facilities and the service and et cetera and yourselves, something could be arranged for, let's say, a Friday at the end of April or something, once that floor is in place.
I think that would be fantastic. What I can do is I will speak to Merit, because obviously it's their site, but I'll find it from John. And I'll give a couple of dates, because I know it's not always easy for all of our schedules to work. So maybe from mid-April to the first week of May, we'll have a few Fridays that we can choose from that works best for everybody.
Now, Chair, I do have one other question, which is more service-directed on this one. With basically a completion date of, we'll say, mid-October, does the service have in place what I call a move team? Have you established that already? And who is John Sawicki, Inspector Sawicki, heading that up still?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, we've assigned Inspector Sawicki to work with the one district commander and develop a plan as to how that is going to unfold. Although substantial completion will be October 5th, as we've seen, I don't think we're anticipating move-in until early 2021.
Oh,
I think that's the dates that were
Is
told
that
to
what
me
you were-
earlier.
okay.
Yeah. I mean, we're fluid. We can. We'll get in whenever we can. When it's.
Yes.
We've been waiting a long time to get out of that 68 church. So.
But from a service perspective, I remember of a team that was put together here, I think probably started almost like 2 years out before this building in St. Catharines isn't anywhere near the size of headquarters. But I'm assuming you've got appropriate technologies ordered and furniture. I see reference here to furnitures
Yes.
and that. Who moves first, moving lockers, contents and all that stuff. So I'm assuming that's all in hand.
Yes, it is. Yes.
If I can maybe speak just a little, sorry, I don't know all the protocols. The stakeholder group that we've arranged, which John is part of, those will be some of the items that we'll be tackling. I will be laying out from a Regent's perspective. This is the projection for when the furniture gets delivered, set up by BDs. So we will have, and I don't mind sharing a schedule once we have that first stakeholder meeting, our own internal schedule. So there's the construction schedule, and then there will be our internal schedule, which will have some key points when IT needs to come in, when communications like NRBN need to be completed. All those different stages will be outlined once we talk to the group that are now going to be key players. So from that meeting, definitely, I'll be working quite closely with NRPS to establish all that.
Thank you very much, Nicole. Anyone else have a question? Then I would like to move really to the police services and ask formally if Police Chief Brian McCulloch has any question on behalf of the police services.
Thank you, Chair. No, I don't have any questions. We've established a really good working relationship with the region, and there's a good exchange of information. And I think the steering committee meets on a monthly basis as well. So we've been getting regular updates, and I don't have any questions at this time.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And just a couple comments, Nicole. In reading your report, I'm most pleased to see, I think it was your initiative, that implementation controls
Yes.
are in place, and you'd indicated a couple of the monthly meetings
Yes.
and weekly meetings that
Yes.
are established and ongoing, so
Yep.
that's most important. The completion date of October 5th, and I had a question as well regarding what the move-in date might be. And I think the chief has indicated he's flexible. I guess the seriousness of that is that we need very strong continuity in order to achieve policing services that are required for the city of St. Catharines, and certainly 24/7 is always there. So I'm sure that those will be involved, and we'll look forward to the feedback with respect to the implementation schedules. So if there's no further question, I thank you very kindly for coming this morning, and appreciate the update and look forward to many more of your updates.
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Pleasure meeting you all.
Great. Yes, now we have for receipt, a moved by Member D'Angela and seconded by Member Gibson. If there's any further comments, if not, all in favor? Then that carries. Thank you very much. I did add one other, I'm sorry. I'm going to open up if there's any other new business associated. Police Chief?
Through you, Mr. Chair, just a little top up on the move-in. We were very fortunate with regards to our headquarters move-in. Obviously involved a lot more personnel. Over 600 people work in this facility. About 150 work out of the other facility. So a much scaled down version of a move. And we had a very comprehensive plan in place, different phases of that plan, which will be equally as relevant to the new move into one district. So we have a very good structure in place with milestones that need to be achieved along the way. So Inspector Sawicki will be working very closely and working with the region and ensuring what the appropriate date is.
Excellent. That gives a lot of assurance to those that may be viewing this that, as indicated, 24/7 will be well looked after. Thank you very much. Any other comments? Then this concludes that portion. I would like to move to items of new business. I did indicate one. Is there any other new business to members? And I'm hoping that my request here was really a status update associated with the expanding parking lot that we're looking forward to here at headquarters. And it's actually right behind me is the land. And I'm wondering, Chief, if perhaps in your meetings, if you could expand on perhaps the status of that to date.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm going to refer to regional staff. They've been very good at providing us updates, but there's probably more up-to-date or more current information than from my last update that I received.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Through the chair, my name is Brad Ray. I'm the Associate Director of Facilities for the region. I can provide a quick update. So this file is currently with our real estate department. They've had a bit of a time working with Hydro One to get a lease in place. I can provide the information that all the red tape is more or less complete. We're just waiting on the archaeological assessment. So we expect about 3 weeks to know whether or not we've passed phase one. Hopefully it's left as phase one. If phase one is completed and there's no need to go to phase two, then we'll be in a position to build a month from knowing that. So we expect about 3 weeks to learn about the archaeological assessment. After that, we'd need about a month to mobilize. We have a contract in place with Norjon. So we can expect the earliest about May 1st to start construction.
Excellent.
So,
Thank-
sorry, I will add, if something is found through phase one of the archaeological assessment, we can expect something of a delay. We can't comment on what that delay might be because there's several phases of an archaeological assessment. So they'll need to go on site to dig and see if they find anything. But we're hopeful that phase one will be completed and we can leave it at that and we can move towards construction. So the region is now conducting the archaeological assessment. We were originally led to believe by Infrastructure Ontario that they were conducting it, and then learned through our real estate department about 2 or 3 weeks ago that we were in fact responsible for it. So there was a bit of a delay related to that, but the assessment is the last piece of the puzzle.
Excellent. Thank you very much. We're pleased to have you to be able to give us direct updates such as that. So thank you very kindly. Looking around, if there's, we've moved and seconded. Further questions? Yes, member
Yeah, just
D'Angelo?
on the subject of the new parking, when that report comes forward to the board, can we make sure there's a comprehensive plan in there for the snow removal or snow clearing? Because I've seen this here and I've seen it in other places. It seems like you build a parking lot, but you have no consideration for where snow gets plowed and dumped, and then you lose quite a bit of parking spots. And I know we've had a couple events here, and when there's been a snowstorm, there's been at least 3 or 4 spots that have been lost in the parking lot just in front of the building here because the snow just gets dropped there. So there should be plans in place to actually have a curb cut or something where it can be pushed aside onto grassy area as opposed to being just left on parking spots, because that's, I believe, a problem back here. So if that's not a comprehensive plan in place when it comes forward, I'll be questioning it at that point in time. So I'm giving you a bit of a heads up because I think it's important, because you design parking lots, have the spaces, but then they disappear in wintertime, which creates headaches for those that are trying to use the facility. So I just want to make sure that's captured in the report coming forward.
Thank you, Member D'Angelo, and that's very good to plan at this time at the early stages for that. It's an important event, no doubt about it. Any other items that one would like to share? Seeing none, then I would like to announce then our next meeting will be Thursday, April the 9th, 2020, and so we look forward to that meeting. So thank you very kindly. The meeting's adjourned.
Yeah, please do not call me D'Angelo. Unfortunately, it's very offensive.